As can be expected, everything's pretty overgrown for the most part, but the two redwood trees I planted a few years ago are looking mighty healthy. This one's got about, I'd say, a foot of growth on it, which is great considering I had a tree fall on it 2 years ago. And then this one's the very first one I planted, and the big survivor, and she's looking real good, almost to shoulder height. This is quite impressive. But I've got a lot of mowing ahead of me. Here's what I call the terraced garden. It's not quite terraced yet, but it will be. I did give it a quick watering as soon as I got home. And like I said, it is fairly misty this morning, so the ground's a bit wet, but things are looking pretty dire and a ton of weeding is needed. Now this guy here, and of course I don't know the names of any of these plants, but everyone's looking pretty good. Got some, these are heathers here. They just got planted a few months ago, so they're still setting roots, but looking green and healthy, thank goodness. This, some type of cypress bush I bought when I first moved in, basically killed it in the pot, so I planted it in the winter in the ground, hoping it would survive, but it is only looking worse since then. And again, tons of weeding needed, but more heathers that I planted. Those are starting to bush out nicely, and a couple of the bulbs I planted, they've come up, so that's excellent. And it's looking like the lavender plants are getting ready to put out some buds. My black mondo grass looking a little worse for wear, but hopefully with some water it'll start to bounce back. And then this here is creeping thyme. Again, planted that a few months ago. I think it'll probably look better once I get the weeds out of it. I'm thinking it was a bit starved for water, especially this one isn't looking so good. But still alive, so maybe I got to it in time. And then these guys are just not doing well. Planted this again, I think late winter, or maybe it was actually last year. They died back to the ground. They're supposed to be evergreen. And they're not thriving here. Again, I'm wondering if it's because they're just not getting enough water because we're a bit of a drought. Exciting news, another couple of bulbs that I planted are coming up. This one's actually got a flower coming out of it, so that's looking good. This one, I think it's another one of those plants, but it looks like it got hit by a weed whacker or something. I think maybe a deer chomped on it. And then a couple of succulents I just threw in here because I didn't know what to do with them. And they're succulents, so they're surviving. Another tragic story is I was starting to propagate some moss, but 2 months without any rain, and it just biffed it. So I gave it a bunch of water yesterday, hoping maybe it'll start sending up some new stuff. And then my Spanish grass is looking good. One exciting thing is I thought these guys had died last year. One of the first things I planted in here, a little tiny, I think there's technically some type of a rose, but I don't know. So they sprung back up. Obviously this one's not looking as good, but I gave it some water, and its buddy here some water yesterday, so hopefully they'll rebound. And then I've got this one thing of heather over here that's doing just fine. Again, I'm gonna do a lot of weeding, and the garden's just slowly growing. I'm eventually gonna plant a lot more over here where all this fern is, and fill out the center a lot more too. But I'm just taking it easy. I'm not a gardener. I don't know what I'm doing. The lavender that I planted along the driveway is actually, it's super vibrant. I just need to unbury it from all this ferns. Look at those guys. Excellent, excellent. But we're gonna get this taken care of, and hopefully it'll be looking nice and sharp. All right, well, I've got the lavender unburied. Still gonna come in here with the lawnmower and widen this gap a little bit more. The idea eventually is to have a kind of two-tiered stone wall coming behind the lavender plants, and then all this, where all these huge ferns are, that'll be gardened out. I kind of mostly want to just leave it ferns, but throw in some other stuff to come up as well. Yeah. The meadow's actually looking pretty good. This is the first year I've had, I'm assuming those are some type of daisy. I don't know, but never seen those out here before, so that's really cool. And then the clovers starting to bloom. I do mow the meadow, but when there's flowers out in it, I try and just let them do their thing. Any place where it's just mostly tall grass, I'll knock that down, and that's really to keep the mosquitoes at bay. But yeah, it's looking pretty good. One area that's definitely not looking good, and I think this is, I screwed up in the beginning, but I planted a whole bunch of rhododendrons underneath this tree. I was told I could, but I think I planted them a little too close, and the tree's sucking all the water out of the ground, so they just need a ton more water than I've been giving them. So hopefully while I'm here for the next month or so, I can give these guys the water they need to keep their growing. And yeah, this one's probably one of the worst ones, but it's they're rebounding a little bit. All hydrangeas, not hydrangeas, geez, all rhododendrons, a couple different types to add some variety. They bloom at different times. I think all of them have kind of gone past their bloom. This one, it is in bad shape. But it has put on new growth, so just hopefully more water will fix it. And this little guy over here seems like it's doing pretty good. Getting eaten by something, but so is life. So my plan is for the sticker bushes that are always coming back. There's a reason this place is called Brambley. I'm just gonna give them what I refer to as the spritz of death. Spray some poison on them, but try and be very selective about what I spray to keep as many of the flowers out of harm's way. This whole area, I cut it down earlier this year. It was overgrown like that stuff you see in the background. And so it's coming back with a vengeance. So I just need to stay on top of it, and it'll eventually recede to a point where I don't need to be using poison on it. I can just pull it out by hand. Here's my ruined barn, which one day will hopefully not be ruined. But yeah, looking beautiful. It's hard to believe I cleared all this about 4 months ago. It's all kind of growing back up. So stuff like those blackberry brambles are gonna have to get the spritz of death and then mowed down. But I've been here before, I'll do it again. Now we're in the orchard Jesse and I planted earlier this year. Fortunately, 2 of our trees don't seem to have made it without the rain that just did not show up in May or June. This is a apple tree. It's a brown snout, which isn't too devastating there. I can get those anywhere. What I'm wondering though is it dying from fire blight or just not being watered? I don't know. But that's definitely what fire blight also looks like. And then this one over here is just toast. Mold growing on it and stuff. I think it was doomed, but that's all right. We'll plant them again. The rest of the trees are looking fairly good. These are pippin apples, which were actually the hardest tree to get. They're the ones I'm the most protective over. And then these next two trees are pears. I forget the kind, but here's the really exciting part is these things, you know, they've only been in the ground since March, I believe. And it's got one little pear growing on it. I think this might be an Asian pear. And then lastly, the plum trees, which, you know, I planted these guys out here. I put up this little electric fence, but I don't think it really did anything. So clearly a deer's been breaking the branches, but they're looking like they're in good shape despite the destruction. And, you know, they got to learn to live with the beasts of the land, otherwise they're not going to survive. The blackberry vines along the driveway are looking quite nice. I'll have to hedge them back so they're not encroaching on the drive so much, but should get a bunker crop of blackberries in a few months.